Finding high-quality mental health care can be daunting and exhausting. That's why Cerebral offers convenient access to online mental health services, including therapy and medication management. Cerebral's diverse clinician team can help with anxiety, depression, insomnia, stress, grief, big life changes, and more. You can schedule and communicate with your care team through Cerebral's mobile app and attend your sessions from the comfort of your own home. Get started with or without insurance. Plus, you can now use FSA or HSA. Start your first month for 50% off at Cerebral.com/ACAST.
Hi, it's Dave here and I'm with my wife Cathy.
Hello.
And you're listening to the Cinema where we walk to the movies. We're walking to parent and baby screening of Tomb Raider.
Yes, so we're only going to see Tomb Raider because it's the parent and baby movie. This is the only reason.
Yeah, it happens once a week.
Yeah. Very rarely can we all go. So this is it.
It's a family day out.
It's a family day out.
To a very family fun movie.
And the funny thing about this movie is, for me, my very first ever date was to go and see the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider in the cinema.
Oh, really?
Yeah. When I was
Who was
like,
the guy?
I won't name names in the podcast, but I was about 15 and it was so exciting, right? I was like beyond excited. Obviously, like my whole life I've been watching movies about like, you know, girls going on dates, the cinema and all the rest of it. And me and my girlfriends were all like, oh my god, what's going to happen? Like, is he going to pay for me? Do we each pay for each other? Like, will he try and kiss me? All this kind of stuff. And then we get to the cinema.
Gross. Boys.
And we get to the cinema and I was like so excited, wondering if he was going to pay for me or what was all that going to be. And then we get to the cinema and he's like, oh shit, I forgot my wallet. And I was like, excuse me? And he's like, oh, I don't have any money. And I was like, oh, well, I can get your ticket if you want. And he's like, great, thanks. And I was like, this isn't what I thought was going to happen. So then I bought both of our tickets. And I know that doesn't matter, but when it's your first date and you've built all this stuff up, it was just really, like, at the time I was like really horrified and like just kind of sat through the whole movie being like, are we only going to this so we could get a free cinema ticket? I didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah, he does that to a string of women across the
Anyway,
Cork.
so that was quite funny. Other than that, I actually can't remember anything about the movie.
So what do you remember? You don't remember anything about the movie because you were so besotted
I just remember
with this guy who you had to pay for.
I just remember like Angelina Jolie just obviously being fabulously gorgeous, but like other than that, no. And I haven't seen the second one either. What about you?
I saw it. That happened.
Why are they making
a
another
single
one?
thing about it.
Okay, why are they making another one? Aside from the fact, obviously, I'm assuming they need to keep the rights and make a movie. And why is Alicia Vikander in this movie? Like,
I don't have the answer.
Huge fall from grace for her.
I don't have the answer to either of those questions. I couldn't find an answer to why they're making this movie. But what I assume the answer is because a few years ago they rebooted the video game series with a prequel, so it was like how sort of Lara Croft became Lara Croft.
So interesting. The question we've all needed to know the answer to.
No, hang on, just don't jump the gun here, because I've played that game and I played the follow-up, The Rise of the Tomb Raider, and they were both absolutely outstanding, like absolutely brilliant. Like some of the best video games to be released in the past 5 years.
Okay.
Do
you think it's going to work as a movie?
It was really gritty and like really well told and fun, and it's like it's you see her like the first time she has to like kill somebody out of self-defense, and it's really really good stuff.
But was that not? I don't remember the Angelina Jolie movie. Was that not an origin story too, or was she already Tomb Raider?
She was already Tomb Raider.
Okay.
It was like that was the definition of bad video game adaptation.
But there's no definition of a good video game adaptation, according to you. It's never happened.
No, it has not happened. The good video game movie does not exist.
Okay.
So I challenge you, listeners, to find me one, a video game adaptation. Now, I will say the one that I think stands out for me, and this isn't a good movie, but the one that stands out for me as a brave attempt is the Super Mario Brothers movie with Paul Hoskins, because my God, that movie is batshit crazy. Do you know it was like originally pitched by the husband and wife team that wrote it as a
I love husband and wife teams.
I know, as a sort of a Blade Runner dystopian future. It's like absolutely mental, and elements of that are still in the movie. Dennis Hopper plays Koopa.
There could be a really haunting score like do 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 Like, you could make that music slow and creepy, right?
Yeah,
Like
I'm
I've
sure
just
someone's done that. But yeah, that's a bad movie as well. So there are, and I expect this movie's going to be bad because I don't think the curse has been broken.
Zero hopes for it. Excited to go to Parent Baby, eat cake, drink coffee, all the rest of it. Family day out.
Yeah,
But Alicia Vikander, what are you doing? And look, I
doing?
haven't seen it yet, but what are you doing?
To sum up your question, why is this being made? It's being made because it's
Money.
It's a remake movie of the reboot video game of the original Tomb Raider franchise.
Right.
So
and
what
Alicia
could possibly go
Vikander
wrong?
is hot and brunette, and that seems to be the criteria.
Yep.
Also, they only cast Oscar award-winning actresses in these roles for some reason.
Yes, good point. Yeah.
There's someone else in it as well. It's not just Alicia Vikander. There was somebody else who surprised me when I saw a trailer.
Walton Goggins is the villain. He's brilliant.
Okay, yeah, maybe that was it. I saw going, what's he doing in this movie?
All right, here we are.
Bye.
See you on the other side of the cinema movie.
What's your name?
Laura
Surname?
Croft. Laura, your father's gone. You can pick up where he left off. I see so much of him in you. Brilliant.
Hello, Sprout. If you're listening to this, then I must be dead. I found something. A tomb called the Mother of Death. If Trinity succeeds, our world is in danger. Promise me you will stop them.
I promise. I think I know where my dad went.
That's right in the middle of the Devil's Sea.
It will be an adventure.
Death is not an adventure.
Right, we are back. I'm holding the podcast recorder because Dave is currently eating ramen, which is a sound probably no one needs to hear.
I'm nearly finished.
Nearly finished. We left the cinema and came into Wagamama because it's next to the cinema, and it's so funny how many people have also come from the Parent Baby screening. It's basically a wash with children.
Buggy Central.
So anyway, we're just out of Tomb Raider. I'm going to do a brief synopsis. It's basically Lara Croft. The origin story, as Dave said, very little even to probably say about the plot other than she begins as a bike courier on a 0-hour contract who has no money for ridiculous reasons, and then she goes on a quest to find her dad that involves raiding a tomb and her crossing the oceans and going to Japan and Hong Kong. She's played by Alicia Vikander, as we mentioned.
Dominic West plays her dad, and I think he's who you were trying to remember who you'd seen in the trailer.
When I saw the trailer, I thought, what is Dominic West doing in this? And there's Oscar joining in. So, yeah, that's basically the plot. And obviously her dad was originally played in the original franchise by John Voight, which was interesting because he was the real dad of Angelina Jolie.
Forgot about that.
Dave's trying to backseat podcasting here.
I'm not.
And then,
I'm just adjusting
while
the mic a
you're
bit.
still eating, Dave, are you ready to talk, or do you want me to keep talking?
No, you go.
Okay. So I'm just briefly going to touch on a few things before we go to spoiler booth, which is what we have in Wagamama's. First of all...
Do we have to move seats?
We don't have to move seats, it's fine. First of all, it's just interesting to compare visually. As I said, I don't really remember the first movie, but the visuals were very striking and they were everywhere, and I do remember how Lara Croft looked. And this is really different. So obviously in the original we had Angelina Jolie like sprayed into these really, really tight tops, and then she wore like very short shorts and had like a gun in each hand. Visually this is quite different in that, as opposed to kind of the voluptuousness of Angelina Jolie, Alicia Vikander is like quite muscular. She has like, as she is a ballet dancer, she has that kind of body. She is wearing like long trousers, she's not wearing anything short, and she's not wearing anything skimpy, like no cleavage, none of that. So visually that looks different, and I know that harks back to the new video game.
Yeah, can I jump in here?
Yeah.
That outfit is 100% from the new video game series.
And it's good,
So,
I'm happier about that.
yeah, but I will say that's not to the movie's credit. The game reinvented her more as a strong female character and less of a sexualized
Yeah, but
polygon.
the movie could have still broken away from that if they wanted. The movie didn't have to stick with that.
Yeah, but the movie is essentially just an adaptation of those two video games, and spoiler, a very poor adaptation.
Okay. Well, anyway, it visually looks different. The other thing is that, as I said in the original movie, she always has two guns in her hand. In this movie, she's got a bow and arrow, so a bit Katniss Everdeen. And
Also directly from the video game.
Okay. But that doesn't mean that it's not different from the last movie.
No, sure.
I'm just comparing it from a movie
Yeah.
perspective. So I liked that because obviously you know, there's a really nasty gun culture in the world, particularly in the States, and I was pleased to see there's still guns in the movie, but I was pleased to see that for the majority of it she wasn't toting one.
Just on that point though, because you speak about gun culture and how this movie treats that, and I think that is a problem with a lot of action movies, is glamorizing gun violence, and this movie doesn't really do that. Except for one final scene, which this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailer. There's a scene with Nick Frost, who makes a small cameo in this, where she basically, Oscar loved that bit. She's yes, I think we're finished. Yeah, thank you.
No, it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's a scene where Nick Frost is he's a pawn shop dealer, and then she finds out that he's got illegal guns in the back, and then she goes sort of gun shopping.
Well, I was going to keep this for spoiler brief.
Well, it's in the trailer. Okay. That's why I don't think this is a spoiler.
Yes, so then that annoyed me. I was going to say that at the end I went, oh right, there she is with her guns anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that annoyed me.
And it's a lame little sort of joke reference. I'll take two.
There's also a bit where, no spoiler here, pretty much the opening scene, we see her losing a kickboxing match, and I liked that because we saw her a bit weak, and I was horrendously annoyed by the fact that she kept saying, I'm just not that kind of cross, which I found really annoying. The other thing I would say about her is Alicia Vikander versus Angelina Jolie, because of course you have to compare two performances with the same character.
Yeah.
I think Angelina Jolie is a much stronger screen presence as a lead. Alicia Vikander was, I would say, I found her actually very dull as a lead, whereas in something like Ex Machina I found her amazing in that supporting role. Now I haven't seen other movies she starred in, but I didn't feel like she had the chops for this. There was no fun about her. It was just all serious, and this movie could have done with some fun, and she didn't really bring any fun to it. So what do you think around
anytime she tried to bring fun to it, it was because it was written comedy beats, and the screenwriters who have looked them up, they're
way more fun
quite.
than her.
He's really enjoying this.
These are happy shrieks, by the way.
The screenwriters, who seem very inexperienced, judging by their IMDb profiles, cannot handle comedy. I will also say they can't handle dialogue.
Yeah, dialogue is terrible.
To the point where all the dialogue felt first draft, right? So if you've got a moment, this isn't really a spoiler, where a villain is about to kill Lara, right? And
no way, she's in peril.
Yeah, Lara's in peril. A villain's about to kill her, and her dad is believed to be dead, and he goes, when you see your father, send him my regards.
Yeah, it's just.
I swear I've heard that a million times. If you sat down with a group of writers and asked them to come up with the most cliched thing you could say in this exact scenario, that's what they would come up with, and I feel like they never moved on from that. So there's no spark to any of the writing.
There's no spark, and they really tried with the initial setting, and for about an hour I was like, actually I feel a bit guilty for kind of slamming this movie before I'd seen it, because it's slightly different than I was expecting. It was set in East London, and they were trying to do she's a poor girl with a heart of gold, but then you realise, wait a minute, she's got all this money waiting for an inheritance that she's just not picked up. So it's basically Iron Fist.
They never. Oh my God! There's such an Iron Fist moment.
For anyone who
minor
doesn't know,
spoilers for the beginning of Marvel's Iron Fist, but I think this is also in the trailer for that. Same exact setup: millionaire heir who refused to take all the money, right? And then they both have this scene where they walk into their company, and the security guard is rude to them, like, "Excuse me, go round the back, because you're a bike courier." And then she goes, "I'm here to see Miss blah blah Anna." And he goes, "What's your name?" And she goes, "Lara." ... And it was in this moment where I'm like, shoot me now, I want to leave this movie.
Yeah.
Croft. And then she drops it, and he's
like,
my God. And that's exactly that moment is the epitome of everything that's wrong with this movie. It's the laziness.
It's so lazy.
I feel every single scene in this movie I feel like I've seen already.
Okay, we've seen The Fast and the Furious. That's what the start of this movie was. Except
on
Fast
bikes.
And the Furious on a bike with Alicia Vikander.
And it was even the setup to that was like she walks into this garage with the bike couriers, and they're like, "Hey, we're about to do this cool bike chase through London, but we just need someone to chase." And she goes, "I'll do it." And then the two guys are like, "Really? You?" It's like, what? No.
Yeah.
Why not her?
Yeah.
What the?
And she's doing it all for £600, Dave. And Excuse me, there's a child in there.
Sorry.
She's doing it all for £600, so we're getting really nitpicky on this, but like basically my overall point is,
why didn't she inherit the fortune?
If you've got that much of a fortune available to you, right, and you don't want it, that is fine, but what you do is you take the money and you give it to charity.
Yeah.
You do not sit on what's presumed to be millions or billions of pounds here by the look of things and just go, oh, I'm not accepting that money because if I accept it, I'm admitting my father died. It's the most crude and selfish thing. In the 7 years where she hadn't taken that money, she could have put it somewhere, been earning interest on it, giving that to charity. She could have been, there's so many things she could have done. Instead she's faffing around. Also, as if she's that hard up for 600 quid, how can she afford to live in Shoreditch, which is one of the most expensive suburbs, like to rent in London. So that annoyed me anyway.
But the whole thing was annoying. I thought she was quite annoying. The whole thing.
She was annoying. In terms of the overall look and feel of the movie, I enjoyed kind of the initial. There's a very cool kind of waterfall peril scene, which I thought was really cool. And then for about an hour after that, it was just dull and ugly and lifeless. And by the end, I was completely tuned out. Like I wasn't paying any attention.
If you're not invested in character. Story is a fail, first of all.
Yeah.
And if the characters aren't bringing you through this, like I'm thinking
or the
snappy dialogue of Guardians of the Galaxy and made us emote with those characters and made them likable because they were fun to be around.
She's zero crack.
And not only that, I didn't believe her relationship with her father. The way that was written, they gave them all these little quirks. They're supposed to have this quite quirky little relationship. He calls her Sprout.
I know, that really annoys me.
He calls her Sprout, and every time he says goodbye to her, he does this little thing where he like puts two of his fingers to his lips and goes like that and goes, "Dad loves you."
Yeah.
And they kept repeating this to try and hammer it home for some sort of emotion climax, and it's like, oh,
Dominic West,
I feel
what
like
are you doing in this movie?
The people who wrote this clearly don't have children, and they
Why
probably
would you say
don't
that?
have parents either, because I felt like they've never experienced a parental-child relationship from either side, because it didn't feel human. It didn't.
No,
it just
but
felt
I
written.
wouldn't carry like past aspersions on their family life. I just think they're bad writers.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It felt like there was no authenticity to any of this.
It was terrible.
And also,
they were terrible on screen together. I thought, and Dominic West is like one of my favourite actors, but I just thought they had nothing. Then I wonder if one of the reasons she was so good in Ex Machina is because she was playing a robot. Because she's very, very robotic.
I think she's a good actress. I think the screenplay let her down here. There was nothing to work with.
I mean, I liked her physicality. Like, she's clearly really strong and ripped and like ready to do all the physical stuff in this movie, and I think she did a fantastic job on that. And she was good at being like feisty, but it was just dull. And Dominic West was dull, and even the baddie, he wasn't particularly interesting either.
He was terrible and very disappointing because Walton Goggins is a really great actor and he plays great villain. But again, the script gave him nothing.
Yeah,
the guy's motivation is that he's been on an island for 7 years and he's trying to get to a tomb, right? So he's frustrated and wants to leave. Now, one annoying part about this was that his main motivation is when he first meets Lara, he says, "I've had nobody to talk to except the other end of this satellite phone for 7 years." And he kept hammering that home. It's like, I finally, this isn't a spoiler. Oh, I would just wish I had someone to talk to. It's like, hang on, the dude is surrounded by a team of mercenaries.
Yeah, but he means someone of intellect, I think.
Anyway, I'm not defending the movie. He had zero motivation.
Again,
he was
zero loss.
Phoning this in. It was really dreadful. And quick point on why the video game is good and why this is bad. I think this is a classic case of a movie adaptation not understanding what makes a video game enjoyable. And I think this thing is doomed from the start. And maybe this is why all video game adaptations are doomed from the start.
Well, you know, the first Tomb Raider was actually the most, and still is the most profitable, like, video game adaptation of all time.
That doesn't mean it's good.
No, I'm just saying this one isn't going to follow. It didn't do... It's not a bomb at the box office, but it's not a success either. It's just a very middle-of-the-road performance.
Well, let me speak to why I think that all of these things fail, because they misunderstand what is enjoyable about playing a video game, and it's actually experiencing these things is more fun than watching them. Trying to solve how to enter a tomb and the puzzle around a tomb is a lot more rewarding when you yourself have done it.
Yeah, watching her tomb-breaking sequence was really dull.
Exactly, it was dull, and also there was no explanation to any of the puzzles as to how they work.
Yeah, I was wondering that. I thought I might have missed something.
No, you didn't miss a thing. You never get a moment of Lara even saying to the screen, which you get in Indiana Jones, okay, this must mean this because that, and also I've cracked the code, let me explain it to you, this is how it works. It's literally somebody asks Lara to break the code and she goes, okay, done it.
Yeah.
That's crazily boring to watch. There's
dull.
no suspense, that's dull. In a video game, you're figuring it out and you're rewarded. You get that little endorphin hit because you did that. You get that little endorphin hit when you're at the edge of a waterfall and you just save Lara from dying and all these things keep happening and they're coming towards you. That's why video games are fun. And not only that...
Well done though, the waterfall sequence in this. Give it that.
Well done.
Yeah,
it was fine. It was fine. But I tell you, I've played that in both of those games and a million things like that. And it's a lot more fun to do in a video game than it is to do in a movie. And not only that, the thing that you can translate so easily from a video game to a movie is the story.
Yeah.
And this movie failed on that count. It's sort of a mishmash of those two reboot video games, and it pulled elements of both of them. So the shipwreck and the mysterious island is from the first game, her father and
it's
Trinity
just from every generic
is from the second
movie
game.
ever.
But when a movie, I mentioned very briefly in the intro, there's a moment in the first video game where Lara has to murder someone in self-defense, and that's a really, really powerful moment, and you sort of what she's done sinks in, and I think the video game landed that so well. The movie tried to do that moment as well. It fell flat in its arse. Didn't work. That's just one of several moments.
I don't even remember that moment.
See, you don't even remember.
Yeah.
That's just one of several moments in this movie that tried to emulate the video game and just failed. And all it kept doing was reminding me of how much fun I had. And there's all these little references. There's the pickaxe and the bow and arrow and her outfit and all these things. Anyway.
I liked the bow and arrow because it did feel I know it's like Cat and 17, but it felt more fun that using the bow and arrow. Like that's more enjoyable to watch than someone just blasting out machine guns, which is always I hate. But yeah, look, overall this isn't saying much, but it was better than I expected it to be at the start, and then by the end it was just spectacularly dull, like unwatchably dull, to the point where I was just looking around the cinema and actually noting how dull and how bored everyone else was. Like no one was looking at the screen, like everyone was just like looking at their phones. Like it was a terrible audience. No one was interested. Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, we can go to spoiler booth.
Let's move
but
into
there's
the
not much to
spoiler
say.
booth.
Yeah.
I think I would recommend don't even bother going to see this.
I mean,
movie.
I don't think many people are going to go. I think we're the only losers going to see it.
We literally only went because it's what they were showing for the bare minimum screen. I will say, I feel like in 6 months' time, if this is on Netflix or on your Sky store or whatever, if it's just on your TV and you've and you just want to take your brain out, whatever, and watch some popcorn flick.
Nah, I wouldn't.
Maybe a Sunday afternoon kind of watch.
But I wouldn't have wished it on myself. But it would have been good to watch the original one first and then kind of do a bit more of a comparison. But I don't think either of them are even worthy of that, to be honest.
No.
And I sound like I'm down on Alicia Vikander, and I'm not. Like I think she's so great in Ex Machina. This is just not. I just don't think this is her medium. I just didn't get it.
What's it on her medium? Movies.
Action.
All right.
Action star. I didn't feel it.
Interesting point that she's dating. Okay,
I was just getting bored of her talking about this movie.
She's dating Michael Fassbender, right?
I don't know.
I think, or she was, and he starred in Assassin's Creed last year.
Funny.
Another terrible.
Maybe they bonded.
Well, I haven't
over
seen
that.
it, to be fair.
Well,
but
interestingly,
I've heard it's terrible.
The movie they starred in together, The Light Between Oceans, I just read on our holiday, and I loved it. And I'm going to watch that soon, and I can picture her in that role being incredible. Like I feel like that's a great role. For her.
I don't think this movie tarnishes her. I think she's good.
I just think why bother? I think that of anyone who's ever in, and I'm sure she got paid money, like loads of money. But I just think if you have that kind of critical clout at the moment, why throw it away and why waste it? Now I'm sure doing all the training and the
Big
physical
paycheck,
stuff is really
high
fun
profile.
for an actor. I mean, and it is, and like it's really cool to have a female-led action movie. Like I say that as like being really pleased to watch her do it, and I really enjoyed the physicality of her stunts because she's phenomenally strong. Like her upper body strength, incredible.
She's good. She gave it her all. I feel like she really committed to this.
Yeah.
But she just had
The movie let her down.
The movie let her down.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right,
okay.
let's move into spoiler booth and cover
break.
off a few points.
Yeah, I have nothing to cover.
Right. Okay. I will say the thing that probably really annoyed me the most was the lame setup for a sequel at the end or a franchise, whatever
God,
it was.
terrible.
And again, that didn't. That wasn't interesting to me anyway, because I knew from the video games that woman was part of Trinity. So it wasn't even an interesting reveal, and I think you could have guessed it anyway. But also, they didn't have any emotional.
I didn't care to think about it.
But they didn't have any emotional payoff to that reveal either. It was just like, okay, I've discovered this, and what? And now you're on some sort of mission against Trinity. I don't care. You need to unclip him. Yeah, you need to unclip him.
Sorry, we're unclipping from a high chair.
There you go. You got him?
Yeah. This makes very good audio.
The Nick Frost cameo annoyed me. It's just kind of pointless, lame. One thing I did like was I liked the Lu Fen, the Hong Kong sea captain.
Oh, I loved him. I meant to say I really, really liked him, and again thought he was totally wasted. He was probably the most charismatic screen presence in the movie, and he was totally wasted.
And anytime he was on screen, the two of them actually had a bit of chemistry and had a bit of a spark.
Yeah, I was hoping there might be a bit of romance might have happened, but it was
But
not
the problem
to be.
was, well, I didn't even want that, but I just wanted them to actually keep that going. But no, they got separated, and then he did nothing until the very
I
end.
don't even know what happened to him at the end, actually.
That's because you weren't really paying attention. You absolutely tuned out.
Yeah.
His name's Daniel Wu.
Yeah,
just for
he was
reference.
really,
And
really
he
good.
He was really, really good.
Yeah. But again, like she meets him, he's an alcoholic, sober instantly. No big deal. I'll just go captain a ship now into the middle of like the ocean.
Oh,
and
I thought the ocean thing was done quite well.
It was fine, but like the kind of implication was that like, so they're in Hong Kong, they're saying it's off the coast of Japan, it's really perilous. And then they arrive there in about 2 minutes. Like, you know, there was no voyage. Like, it would have been fun to see a bit more of their voyage.
And it turns out lots of people got there.
Yeah,
so,
there was
there was a whole.
people.
They were like enslaving washed-up fishermen and like also human trafficking.
It was really funny when I went
tourists
to went to the bathroom and came back, and I was like, oh, so Lara Croft's now like in a chain gang, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, it was just all pathetic, really. I've nothing else to say on it.
I will say the whole thing was an absolute letdown. The climax of the movie, the whole sort of
So boring.
Japanese
It
tomb
was just
and all these
gobbledygook.
puzzles. The puzzles were just boring and like out of a. I mean, I felt like they were trying to harness what makes a video game exciting, like that platformer sort of action, the floor falling out from underneath you. But actually, all that stuff's from kind of video games you played 20 years ago. Like this felt out of date.
And I didn't understand why. I genuinely didn't understand. And it's not just because I kind of stopped paying attention. Like, why was Lara Croft helping the baddie?
Because they were about to shoot her father.
Yeah, but she had her bow and arrow.
Yeah, but he said, I can fire a bullet faster than you.
Yeah,
fire
but
a
when
bullet
he says open the tomb for me, right? And then she starts doing her boring tomb opening sequence. At that point, she could have turned around, like kicked him in the head. Like she could have not brought anyone into that tomb. Like it didn't add up. And at the start, I know I'm going back to it, but just it didn't add up why she wasn't taking her dad's money and why she's working as a bike courier.
None of her motivations
made any sense. She's like, it's like admitting he's dead if I take this money. No, you can still presume him alive and do something important with this money and not like Kristen Scott Thomas make these evil corporations out of it.
Also, her dad's blind belief in the supernatural didn't make sense. Also, the quick little message he leaves her in his sort of funeral camcorder thing, like, watch this if I die. And then he goes, as you know, your mother died and I was filled with grief, so the only thing I could do was hunt the supernatural.
Yeah, it was outrageous.
Like, what are
we
you
both
talking
just
about?
went, huh?
But also, why did he believe it was supernatural? Also, he was wrong. It wasn't supernatural.
It was pure gobbledygook. That's the only thing I can say about the end. The ending was just like, insert gobbledygook shite here and see what happens.
And then she just like, then it was over. That felt like the middle of the movie, but it was the climax because most of the movie had been wasted.
That was about 40 minutes long though. That tomb sequence was horrific.
It was so
slog, and it was so grey and grainy and ugly.
Dull.
Yeah.
But let me tell. Go play those video games. Don't watch this movie. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
It's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Because those video games ham up the survival aspect of it. She's so has to survive on an island by herself, and she has no experience.
She just meets her dad straight away.
Yeah, and it's over, which I think was a mistake. Actually, having him come back, I think he should have just been dead. And that's it. Because there was no emotional connection there.
No, when they were reunited, it was like nothing. If I hadn't seen my dad in 7 years and he'd been presumed dead, I think I'd be like vaguely more interested in getting back together. They were just like, oh hey,
hello Sprout.
Yeah, I love you, Daddy. Phone home.
It was awful.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, there's not much more to
nothing
say.
left to say.
Thanks for listening. We're gonna head home now. Let us know if you went to this movie or not. I don't think anyone's gonna go.
I don't think anyone's going to go.
And if anyone's listening to this, let us know if you did actually watch the movie.
I reckon this is
care.
one of those episodes where people will just go to spoiler booth regardless because they won't care and they'll also know how it ends.
Stop saying spoiler booth like it's a thing.
Like you would know that, like, all right, Lara Croft's going to be grand and she'll live to fight another day.
Yeah, you could figure this whole movie out from the trailer. Like
No,
her dad
except-
being alive was not a surprise.
What you may not figure out is just how dull it was. No, but look, I'll stand by the fact that it was way less lecherous than the last movie. I think she was probably a good casting choice. As we said, the movie let her down. I think it was completely unnecessary to make this movie, and I think it's a bit of an embarrassment, obviously, for all actors involved. I think they should be a bit ashamed of themselves, really.
Yeah, well, they
I
can
mean,
take their
and the
paycheck
director and the
keep going.
screenwriter should be really ashamed of themselves. But yeah, it's just a waste of time. But we had fun in a family outing.
We did.
Yeah. Okay, and please remember to subscribe to us on social media. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at The Cinema. We're also on Apple iTunes and iCast, wherever you can find podcasts, Acast even. And please, it's really helpful for us, and we really appreciate if you like the podcast and you enjoy getting it for free, if you could please log on to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating. That would be awesome.
Thanks very much. Thanks for listening. Don't go to this movie.
Can't be too careful these days. The world has gone bloody mad.
I'll take 2.